Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of sources, strip away the noise, and hand you the pure, distilled knowledge.
And if you've spent any time at all online, you have definitely encountered today's topic.
Oh, absolutely. Today, we are strapping on our armor and plunging into the world of an animal that has, well, it's achieved a truly mythological status in the digital age.
It really has. This creature has become a symbol of relentless, almost comical aggression.
I am talking, of course, about the creature whose reputation precedes it everywhere, the one that embodies an almost supernatural level of sheer spite and determination. We're doing a deep dive on the honey badger, Mellivera capensis.
That's right.
Everyone knows the meme, right? The viral
Yeah.
videos, the animal that just doesn't care. But when we look past the online hype, what does that reputation really mean, biologically and ecologically?
And that is exactly our mission today. We've analyzed a stack of sources that move decisively beyond the internet legend and provide a deep scientific anchor for all this.
So it's not just a meme.
Not at all. The honey badger, or Ratel as it's also known, is a mammal with an incredibly wide distribution. You can find it across sub-Saharan Africa, stretching through Southwest Asia, all the way to the Indian subcontinent.
Wow.
And it's a biological marvel because it is the only living species in the genus Mellivera and is unique enough to have its own specialized subfamily, Melliverinae.
That distinction right there, getting its own subfamily, that tells you right away this animal is doing something evolutionarily unique.
Exactly.
So the reputation for invincibility and, ferocity, it isn't just viral hyperbole. It's rooted in something very real.
Precisely. Our goal is to synthesize the complex ecology, the evolutionary biology, and the surprising, often intense human conflicts that actually define this creature's life.
We're going to reveal the real reasons behind its notorious toughness.
We are. We'll look at its anatomy, its chemical defenses, and its behavioral flexibility, all of which combine to create this legendary survivor.
I love that. We're moving from the myth to the mustelid anatomy. Let's start by grounding ourselves in the specifics of its scientific identity.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the basics then. The name itself. Mellivera capensis. Sounds pretty descriptive.
It is, very straightforwardly so. The first part, Mellivera, comes from Latin, and it means honey eater,
Of course.
which clearly points to one of its most famous food sources, though, as we'll discuss later, maybe not its most crucial one.
Okay.
And capensis simply refers to where the type specimen was originally classified and described, the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa.
Simple enough. But then there's its other common name, Ratel, which sounds, I don't know, far more aggressive. It kind of fits its personality better.
The origin of Ratel is a little fuzzier, but the strongest theory ties it back to the Dutch language, specifically Dutch settlers in South Africa.
And what do they think it means?
Well, it might come from the word ratel, which means rattle. This could be describing the noise it makes when it gets agitated, warning off competitors or predators.
I can picture that.
Or, alternatively, it might derive from rat, which means honeycomb, again referencing its primary dietary interest in raiding beehives.
So either the sound of its rage or the object of its desire.
Exactly.
Now let's talk family trees. This is where scientists, I gather, have historically gotten a bit confused about where the honey badger actually fits.
That's right. For a long time, taxonomists just grouped it with the true badgers, putting it in the subfamily Melinae.
Which makes sense on the surface.
It does. I mean, it looks like a badger, it digs like a badger, and it has the word badger in its name. It seems logical. But as genetic analysis and deeper anatomical studies became common, the picture changed radically.
So if it wasn't a true badger, what did it turn out to be?
It was confirmed to be much more closely related to the marten subfamily, the Galoninae.
The marten subfamily.
Yes, and this is a crucial distinction. The Galoninae includes animals like the stoat, the tara, and most famously, the wolverine.
Gulu gulu. The wolverine. Okay, that changes everything.
It does. The genetic evidence was so strong that it was ultimately awarded its own taxonomic designation, the subfamily Melliverinae, emphasizing its unique evolutionary path within the Mustelidae family.
That's a fantastic connection that immediately reframes the animal for you, the listener. It's not just a tough badger. It's a cousin to the wolverine that instantly elevates its reputation.
The comparison to the wolverine is key because it shares that same generalist, ferocious temperament and incredible adaptability. It's an animal that prioritizes pure survival and toughness over any specific anatomical niche.
And this uniqueness is deeply rooted in its evolutionary history.
Yeah, very deep. The species, Mellivera capensis, first appeared during the Middle Pliocene in Asia.
And its relatives go back even further, you mentioned. Millions of years.
Exactly. Its lineage within the Mustelidae family stretches back at least 7 million years to the late Miocene. When we look at the fossil record, we realize the modern honey badger is the product of millions of years of refining a very specific, adaptable survival toolkit.
What do the fossil records tell us about its ancient ancestors? Were they all built like these little armored tanks?
Not entirely, no. We know about extinct relatives like Mellivera benfieldi and Promellivera, but what's particularly striking is the context provided by creatures like Ecorus from Kenya.
Ecorus.
Yes, which was a giant, long-legged mustelid. So when you trace that family tree, you see adaptation driven by necessity. The modern honey badger is the final iteration, a low-slung, compact, armored specialist perfect for close-quarters combat and digging.
Given its vast range spanning across Africa, the Middle East, Asia, I assume the honey badger isn't just one single uniform creature. There must be regional variations.
Oh, there is immense variability. Taxonomists currently recognize 12 valid subspecies.
12.
And these subspecies are primarily differentiated by their geographical location, their overall body size, and critically, the distribution and extent of the white or gray fur on their back, that classic helmet.
Can you give us a striking visual example of how much this creature can vary? Because I, and probably most listeners, we only picture that classic black body with the shock white stripe.
The classic one is the MC capensis, the Cape Ratel from South Africa. That's what defines the iconic black and white look.
Okay, that's our baseline.
Now contrast that with the MC indica, the Indian Ratel. This subspecies is generally smaller and paler than the Cape specimen, and its lateral white band is often less distinctly marked, almost faded.
Okay, that's subtle. Give us something radical.
The most striking visual departure is found in the MC cottoni subspecies, sometimes called the black ratel.
The black ratel.
This subspecies, found in regions like Ghana and the Congo, is uniquely characterized by fur that is typically, well, it's entirely black.
No white stripe at all.
None. Imagine seeing a ratel without that distinctive white stripe. It changes the visual identity completely.
Why would an entirely black coat evolve in Ghana and the Congo? The classic black and white is thought to be an aposematic signal, a warning sign, basically do not mess with me.
That's an excellent evolutionary question.
So what ecological advantage does losing that signal offer in those specific environments?
The dense, shaded environments of the Congo Basin and Ghanaian forests are fundamentally different from the open savanna or arid regions of the Cape. An all-black coat likely aids in stealth and camouflage within the deep shadows of the forest floor.
So it's better for hiding.
Exactly, especially if their primary threat profile shifts from open country hunters like lions to ambush predators, or if there's a greater need for stealth when hunting their own prey. Thermoregulation might also play a role in those heavily humid, dense tropical zones.
That's a magnificent level of diversity.
Yeah.
From the warning sign helmet of the plains to the stealthy, entirely black model of the forest, it just reinforces that this creature is an immense success story.
Absolutely, adapted to nearly every environment it encounters.
So let's move from classification to physical architecture. This is really where the legend is forged. We've established it's related to the wolverine. What are the sheer physical dimensions we're talking about?
In terms of size, it's a powerhouse. Adults typically measure between 55 to 77 centimeters in body length, with a tail adding another 12 to 30 centimeters.
So not huge in length.
No, their shoulder height is quite low, only 23 to 28 centimeters. They are compact, dense, and built low to the ground.
And the weight, that must be where the power comes from.
There is clear sexual dimorphism here with a noticeable weight difference. Males are considerably larger and heavier, averaging between 9 and 16 kilograms.
And the females.
Females are smaller, usually between 5 and 10 kilograms. This makes it the largest terrestrial mustelid in Africa and the third largest known badger overall after the European and hog badgers.
16 kilograms doesn't sound overwhelming for a creature famed for confronting lions. Is that average deceptive?
It is, and that's where we can leverage the sources for maximum impact. While 16 kilograms is typical for a large male, the documented variation suggests an incredible capacity for bulk.
Like what?
Studies have cited wild females in Iraq reaching an astonishing 18 kilograms.
18 kilos for a female.
Yes. And to grasp the significance of that weight is comparable to what you'd expect from a large male wolverine in late autumn. It tells you that when resources are abundant, the honey badger has the genetic potential for massive, disproportionate bulk.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The extreme adaptations for defense.
Hmm.
We need to talk about the armor plating, the skin.
The skin is perhaps its most discussed and critical defense mechanism. It is remarkably thick around the neck. The hide can measure 6 millimeters.
6 millimeters, that's like leather.
It is, but the thickness is only half the story. The other half is the elasticity. The skin is described as remarkably loose. This isn't just loose skin, it's functional, tactical armor.
Explain the mechanics of that loose skin for us, because that's the part that is so hard to visualize.
Okay, imagine a thick leather sack draped over a much smaller body. If the badger is grabbed by a predator, say a leopard, or worse, a constricting python, the skin allows the animal to turn and twist freely, almost 180 degrees, within its own hide.
Wait, within its own hide. So if a python is coiled around the badger can physically rotate inside the python's grasp and use its teeth and claws to attack.
Exactly. It nullifies the predator's ability to pin it down or land a decisive, fatal blow. Furthermore, that skin is just hard to penetrate with teeth or claws.
So even a lion bite might not get through.
The sources specifically note that the 6 millimeter neck thickness is adapted primarily for fighting other badgers, but it clearly provides excellent defense against predatory canines and felines. It makes it virtually impossible for a lion or a hyena to execute a quick standard neck bite. It's a true escape artist quality built right into its biology.
And that structural integrity also makes them incredibly difficult for humans to handle, right? I read that even researchers struggle.
Yes. The sources mention that the only truly safe grip is on the back of the head, because if you grab them anywhere else, they immediately use that twisting ability to turn and bite your hand. The skin's looseness, combined with its thickness, means that in a fight, the honey badger's ability to defend itself is almost unparalleled for its size.
Now, let's look at their sensory organs. It seems like they've sacrificed traditional senses for pure defense.
They certainly have. The head is small and flat, with a short muzzle. Crucially, their eyes are small and their external ears are reduced to little more than low ridges on the skin.
Just ridges.
Barely more than that. This reduction of external soft tissue features is a critical adaptation to prevent damage while fighting. They present minimal exposed targets. They don't need highly acute hearing. They are central to its entire lifestyle. They are natural, heavy-duty backhoes, essential not just for defense, but for accessing the bulk of their food, as they spend a tremendous amount of time digging prey out of burrows.
And the teeth. They must rely on sheer biting force.
Their dentition is built for durability. They possess very powerful jaw muscles. Interestingly, while they consume softer foods like insects and smaller rodents, their cheek teeth are often extensively worn down.
What does that tell us?
It indicates a high volume of rough processing, constantly chewing through bone, chitin, and perhaps even hard soil when digging for roots. Their canine teeth are notably short for a carnivore of its size, but they are thick and robust, designed for crushing and puncturing.
I noticed the sources also mentioned an adaptation on the tongue.
That's a small but fascinating detail. The papillae on the tongue are sharp and pointed. This structure assists them in processing those tough foods, helping them scrape flesh and hair from bones, ensuring they maximize the nutritional yield from every single part of the carcass.
And finally, we have to talk about its chemical weapon, the anal pouch, the source of that legendary awful smell.
Ah, yes, the musk. The honey badger possesses an aversible anal pouch, a gland structure surprisingly shared with hyenas and mongooses.
How potent is this secretion?
The odor is reportedly suffocating. It's a dense, pungent, yellow liquid. This is not a subtle marking tool. It is a full-spectrum defensive tactic, deployed to deter predators many times its size, like lions and hyenas when they are cornered or surprised. It's an immediate, disabling physiological deterrent.
But the sources suggested a surprising secondary function related to its honey obsession.
Yes, there is a fascinating theory that this chemical weapon may actually assist in calming bees when the badger raids hives.
Call me bees.
It's hypothesized that the powerful odor, whether through direct chemical properties or simply by overwhelming the insect's senses, might provide a temporary reprieve. This would allow the badger to breach the hive and access the larvae and honey without being stung into retreat. Whether it's a true sedative or just an overpowering distraction, the sources suggest a definite link.
Okay, so we have this small, perfectly engineered tank that smells terrible. Now, where do these magnificent creatures live? The answer seems to be pretty much everywhere.
They are truly geographical masters of survival. They have a massive range covering most of sub-Saharan Africa, extending from the Western Cape all the way up through northern Africa.
And outside of Africa.
Their range continues across Arabia, Iran, Western Asia, Turkmenistan, and extends right across the Indian Peninsula.
That geographical spread alone speaks volumes about their resilience. What are the environmental extremes they tolerate?
They demonstrate remarkable habitat tolerance. They are found in deserts, mountainous regions, and forests, thriving in areas that would kill most other mustelids. They range from sea level up to incredibly high altitudes.
How high?
Documented at 2,600 meters in the Moroccan High Atlas, and astonishingly, up to 4,000 meters in Ethiopia's Bale Mountains.
4,000 meters. That is almost the definition of a creature that simply does not care what you throw at it.
And climate variation is no issue either.
Yeah.
They tolerate annual rainfall from a meager 100 millimeters in arid areas up to a massive 2,000 millimeters in lusher zones. This generalist approach to habitat is foundational to their success. If there is food and shelter, the honey badger will find a way to thrive.
Let's discuss how they live day to day. They're famously solitary. Is that a hard and fast rule?
Mostly, yes. The honey badger operates primarily as a solitary hunter and inhabitant. However, the sources note that they have occasionally been observed hunting in pairs in Africa.
Now, there's some flexibility.
There is. This situational cooperation suggests a flexible social structure, although they are certainly not pack animals. Their sheer self-sufficiency is what defines their survival strategy.
Given those massive claws, they must spend a lot of time underground.
They are expert fossorial animals, relying heavily on burrows for security and hunting. They utilize pre-existing burrows, perhaps excavated by warthogs, aardvarks, or porcupines, but they can create their own shelter with astonishing speed.
How fast are we talking?
They are capable of digging tunnels into hard ground in just 10 minutes.
10 minutes to build a highly defensible home base. That's an incredible emergency shelter protocol.
It is pure defensive efficiency. Their burrows are simple, usually just 1 to 3 meters long, typically with only one entry, and critically lacking any bedding.
No bedding.
None. They are focused on quick, secure shelter, not comfort or long-term habitation. It allows them to remain highly mobile.
What about their activity patterns? Do they prefer the cool of the night like most badgers, or are they active throughout the day?
This is a great example of their pragmatism. Their activity varies dramatically based on location and season.
Give me an example.
In the Serengeti, studies found them to be mostly nocturnal during the hot, dry season, likely to avoid heat stress and high predation pressure. But when the wet season comes, they become active throughout the day, hitting their peak during the crepuscular hours, dawn and dusk.
But that contrasts sharply with observations in Asia, doesn't it?
It does. Studies in India, specifically in the Sariska Tiger Reserve and the Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, concluded that the honey badger was highly nocturnal in those regions. This variability emphasizes that their schedule is not genetically fixed, but is an active response to local factors.
It's all about what works best right there, right then.
Exactly. Is it safer or cooler to hunt at night, or is the optimal prey active during the day? Their flexibility is the key to their environmental ubiquity.
Speaking of activity, let's discuss home range. If they're eating such a diverse menu, they must need a tremendous amount of space to support themselves.
This is where the numbers get really startling and highlight the energy demands of their generalist diet. Their home ranges are massive, especially for an animal of this size.
Give us a scale.
Adult males have an average home range of 548 square kilometers. That's over 210 square miles.
548 square kilometers.
Yes. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the size of the entire city of Chicago just for one animal.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Why do they need to cover such an enormous territory? What does that tell us about their place in the ecosystem?
It tells us two major things. First, their population density is incredibly low. They are forced to range vast distances because they are generalists who are hunting patchy, unpredictable resources, whether it's a specific route or a difficult-to-locate burrow.
They're not waiting for food to come to them.
No, they're constantly scouting for anything they can exploit. Second, this range size is heavily tied to reproduction. Females have smaller but still large ranges, averaging 138 square kilometers.
And the sources suggested the male range is essentially a reproductive search pattern.
Precisely. The enormous ranges maintained by the males are all about maximizing access to females. These vast domains intersect with about 13 females, suggesting a male dominance hierarchy heavily tied to the availability of females in heat.
So they're just constantly on the move.
Constantly traversing this enormous area, utilizing their speed and persistence to ensure reproductive success.
How do they communicate across such huge solitary tracts of land?
Scent marking is paramount. Since direct contact is rare, they have to advertise their presence and status. They frequently scent mark territories using anal gland excretions, feces, and urine, often done while squatting.
So it's like a chemical bulletin board.
You could say that. The source material describes this behavior as an important form of communication, allowing them to coordinate their solitary movements, advertise their readiness to mate, and warn off same-sex rivals without needing a costly physical confrontation every time.
Okay, let's talk menu. This animal has the reputation for eating anything that moves, and quite a few things that don't. Given that enormous 548 square kilometer hunting range, it makes sense that they can't afford to be picky.
That's the perfect transition. That generalist strategy is built right into their diet. The honey badger holds the distinction of having the least specialized diet in the entire weasel family,
The least specialized.
second only to its cousin, the wolverine. This lack of specialization is a massive factor in their success across so many habitats. If it's edible and they can catch it or dig it up, it is on the menu.
And once they catch something, their motto seems to be waste nothing.
Absolutely. They utilize the entire meal. They devour all parts of their prey, including the skin, hair, feathers, flesh, and bones, holding the food down firmly with their powerful forepaws while they eat. They are high-efficiency converters of biomass.
What's the typical breakdown of their foraging strategy? Is it mostly hunting or scavenging?
A large percentage of their foraging is done by digging, accessing prey that is safe underground. Their food list is extensive, including a massive array of small vertebrates and invertebrates. Insects, frogs, tortoises, turtles, lizards, various rodents, birds, and eggs.
And plants, too.
And to round out that generalist diet, they actively consume vegetable matter, specifically berries, roots, and bulbs, often dug up with those formidable claws.
Give us some specific data points on what they're eating in the wild.
Research from the Cadeligati Transfrontier Park provided a fascinating breakdown. The bulk of their prey species consisted largely of smaller items. Geckos and skinks accounted for 47.9% of prey species, and gerbils and mice made up 39.7%.
So lots of small snacks.
But here's the critical detail. The bulk of the weight of their prey comprised species over 100 grams.
So they are constantly snacking on small items, but the big meals are where they get their required bulk. And that's where the truly impressive stories begin, involving venomous snakes.
Exactly. They take on impressive, dangerous prey. This includes highly venomous snakes like cobras and black mambas. They have been observed killing and eating them in the Kalahari. They also successfully hunt young African rock pythons and substantial prey like the South African spring hare.
How is it biologically possible for an animal that small to kill and consume a black mamba without suffering major effects from the venom? Is the myth of immunity actually true?
The sources suggest that true immunity is likely an exaggeration, but their defense mechanisms and behavior are incredibly effective.
Like the skin we talked about.
First, yes, their thick, loose skin provides a layer of protection against the fangs, often frustrating the strike. Second, they are extremely fast and tenacious, typically aiming to quickly disable the snake with multiple aggressive bites to the head and neck.
Do they get bitten?
They can. And while they may suffer some effects from venom, some observations suggest they may stagger or enter a temporary stupor after a bite. Their recovery is remarkably quick. Their physiology, perhaps their metabolic rate and density, allow them to process toxins far better than most mammals of their size.
That tenacity extends beyond just hunting. Right.
Wow.
They are noted for confronting anything that might threaten their meal.
Yes. They demonstrate extraordinary levels of territoriality and aggressive defense, even against much larger animals. They have been observed chasing away some adult lion cubs from kills.
Chasing away lions.
And the sheer force of their bite and forepaws is evident in observations suggesting they break up the thick shells of tent tortoises in the Namakuru. This requires concentrated brute strength.
And unfortunately, that strength turns against human interests when they encounter domestic stock.
Indeed. They are known to attack domestic livestock, including sheep and goats. And the sheer scale of the conflict is exemplified in cases of surplus killing. They don't just kill what they need.
What's a documented example of that?
One documented incident of surplus killing was severe, resulting in the death of 17 Muscovy ducks and 36 chickens in a single, devastating raid. It's their efficient, relentless nature that makes them such a problem for farmers.
Now, we must address the core component of their name, honey. The famous story about the honey guide bird leading the badger to the hive. Is this scientifically substantiated?
This is a major myth bust. The honey badger famously raids beehives for both honey and, importantly, the protein-rich bee larvae.
So they're after more than just sugar.
Much more. But regarding the famous legend that the small guiding bird, the honey guide, actively leads the honey badger to the hive, the sources are clear. Despite the popular and beautiful story, there is no scientific evidence that honey guides guide the honey badger.
None at all?
None. So they are finding the hives all on their own.
Which makes sense, given their other skills.
Correct. And their adaptations. The tough skin to shrug off stings, the possible bee-calming musk, and their incredible ability to dig the entire hive out of the ground or a tree suggest they have developed their own highly sophisticated hive infiltration protocol, independent of any avian help.
The sources also noted that despite their reputation, they are constantly dealing with competition, even from smaller predators.
That's vital context. In the southern Kalahari Desert, black-backed jackals were observed feeding around honey badgers, resulting in a quantifiable decline, about 5%, in the honey badger's total food intake above ground.
So even the toughest animal in Africa has to contend with opportunistic theft.
An intense competition. It confirms that the high energy demands of their lifestyle necessitate that massive home range and constant foraging.
So we have this famously solitary and aggressive creature. How does it manage to find a mate, reproduce, and raise its young in an environment where survival is already such a high-stakes daily endeavor?
The reproductive strategy is as flexible as their foraging schedule. Unlike many large mammals with fixed breeding seasons, the honey badger has an acic-like breeding pattern.
Meaning they can breed anytime.
They breed at any time of the year. This gives them a significant advantage in unpredictable environments by maximizing the opportunity to raise young when conditions are favorable, regardless of the calendar month.
What's the timeline for raising a litter?
The gestation period is thought to be relatively short, between 50 and 70 days, typically resulting in a very small litter of 1 to 2 cubs.
And they're born helpless?
Completely. When born, the cubs are blind and hairless, completely helpless, and highly vulnerable.
How does the mother care for them while maintaining such a wide, constantly traversed home range?
The female gives birth in a secure den, but her primary defense strategy is mobility. For the first 3 months, she is known to frequently transport the young between different scattered shelters.
So she's constantly on the move with them.
Yes, this constant moving is a key defense against predation and infanticide, preventing any one den from becoming a long-term target. When she forages, she conceals them in the den and returns later to suckle them.
The sources mentioned a surprisingly tender observation of suckling.
It's a rare glimpse into a softer side of this fiercely solitary animal. One instance documented a female suckling her cub outside the den while lying on her back in a supine position, with the cub seated upside down on her abdomen.
Wow.
These observations are rare because they are highly secretive about their young.
What's the timeline for development? When does the baby tank start to look like the adult?
The distinctive black and white adult coat begins to develop relatively early, at about 3 to 5 weeks of age. The critical turning point is around 8 to 12 weeks, which marks the time of weaning. That's when the cubs start following their mother on those massive foraging expeditions.
And this is where the maternal bond becomes crucial. The separation isn't quick, is it?
Not at all. The parental care is exceptionally extended for a solitary mustelid. Cubs remain under the mother's care for a full year, sometimes up to 1.25 years.
A whole year.
This extended period is essentially a high-intensity, year-long field academy.
Why does an animal that is solitary need such intensive training compared to other mustelids?
Because of the complexity of its generalist diet. They aren't learning 1 or 2 specific hunting methods. They need to master climbing trees, digging through concrete hard soil to extract a rodent, identifying edible roots and bulbs, infiltrating a beehive without getting swarmed.
And most critically, how to deal with venomous snakes.
And most critically, how to identify, confront, and dispatch highly venomous snakes. This requires years of observation, practical demonstration, and supervised hunting knowledge that cannot be instinctively known. The mother teaches them these precise survival skills before they are equipped to handle the world alone.
That makes perfect sense. The length of the training reflects the difficulty of their chosen survival niche.
Exactly. It highlights the high cognitive load required to be a successful generalist. However, despite this dedicated care, survival is still incredibly tough. Mortality rates for cubs are high.
How high?
One study recorded a cub mortality rate of 37% caused by a combination of predation, infanticide by other badgers, and starvation.
Do we know their natural lifespan, assuming they survive that dangerous first year?
In the wild, precise lifespan data is hard to pin down due to their mobility and secretive nature. However, we have a clear benchmark from captivity. Individuals have been known to live for approximately 24 years,
24 years.
which suggests that if they can successfully navigate the dangers of the wild and human conflict, they have the biological potential for a very long life. Males reach sexual maturity around 2 to 3 years, while females become sexually mature right around the time they achieve independence and disperse from their mother's territory.
Let's shift to the reality of the modern era. While the honey badger is legendary for its toughness and adaptability, what does its conservation status look like in the face of constant human encroachment?
Fortunately, due to its truly extensive geographical range and generalist nature, the honey badger is currently listed as least concern on the IUCN Red List.
So globally, they're okay.
Globally, it's positive news. However, that status is deceptive because it masks significant ongoing threats at the local level.
And I imagine the core of those local threats revolves around direct conflict with humanity, particularly agricultural conflict.
Absolutely. The primary threat is direct human persecution. Beekeepers and farmers view them as destructive, costly pests. This leads to widespread retaliatory killings, often using poisons or cruel traps, which can rapidly eradicate local populations.
And they get caught in the crossfire too, right?
Yes, they are also inadvertently targeted by control programs aimed at larger predators like jackals and caracals, leading to unintentional casualties. Adding to this, they are used in traditional medicine and as a source of bushmeat in various regions.
Let's elaborate on the poultry predator issue. It's not just that they kill chickens, it's how they breach defenses that fuels the conflict.
That's the critical detail. They are notoriously difficult to deter because of their strength, digging ability, and sheer persistence. Farmers have tried everything, but we are talking about an animal known to rip thick wooden planks, clean off a hen house, or burrow underneath heavy stone foundations to get to the livestock inside.
They're like little escape artists, but breaking in instead of out.
Their problem-solving abilities, coupled with their physical power, mean they defeat standard fortifications easily.
And we noted the severe financial implications of their surplus killing behavior.
That is often the last straw for a farmer. We cited that specific documented case. A single honey badger killed 17 Muscovy ducks and 36 chickens in one incident.
In one night.
When an animal causes that level of severe economic loss overnight, the local desire for eradication becomes intense and, frankly, understandable.
Moving from conflict to contagion, the honey badger poses a significant public health risk as well, related to specific pathogens it carries.
This raises an important question. What price does such wide-ranging adaptability exact on both human and animal health? The honey badger is highly susceptible to rabies. It is, in fact, recognized as a major reservoir of the disease in Kenya and is strongly suspected of being a significant contributor to the sylvatic cycle of rabies across Africa, the maintenance and transmission of the disease among wild animals.
Why is a honey badger an especially dangerous reservoir compared to, say, a fox?
Because of its aggressive temperament and its willingness to fight, attack, and confront other species, including domestic animals and humans, even when unprovoked. When a honey badger becomes rabid, its already formidable aggression is magnified.
We had a very recent example of this in the sources.
Yes. A specific concerning case was documented in July of 2021 in South Africa, where a rabid honey badger attacked a dog and several people in separate incidents before it was ultimately shot.
And the strain of rabies was traced.
Yes. An autopsy confirmed that the rabies strain was one originating from canines, highlighting the crossover risk between wild populations, domestic dogs, and human communities. Managing a rabies outbreak is incredibly difficult when the reservoir species is so highly resilient, mobile, and difficult to deter.
Are there other documented health concerns they carry that impact the ecosystem?
Yes. The sources list a variety of parasitic worms, including species like Strongyloids akbari and Trichostrongyllidae, as well as blood-sucking parasites. They've also been recorded carrying feline parvovirus.
So they're a vector for a lot of things.
This means they are robust carriers in the ecosystem, capable of picking up and transmitting diseases across various species boundaries, further complicating wildlife management and public health efforts in their range.
Finally, what is their temperament like in captivity? Can that relentless aggression be trained out of them?
They are sometimes kept as pets or exhibited in zoos. They are reportedly easy to tame, especially if captured young, with some individuals apparently ceasing the use of their anal glands over time.
But I'm sensing a but here.
Well, the sources add an important caveat. They frequently release anal gland secretions when in contact with a handler. This suggests that even when habituated, the core defensive mechanism, that powerful, pungent musk, is always on a hair trigger, a biological baseline that simply cannot be entirely suppressed.
The honey badger's relationship with humanity is ancient and deeply complex, moving from ecological conflict right into cultural mythology and modern symbolism. Let's talk about their place in traditional culture.
What's fascinating here is how universal the fear of this animal is. It transcends cultural boundaries. For instance, the native people of Somalia give the honey badger an incredibly wide berth.
Why is that?
They hold the serious belief that a man becomes infertile after being bitten by one. That speaks to a deep-seated cultural fear of its destructive power and the perceived toxicity of its attack.
And there are darker allegations, particularly in India, related to its uncanny digging ability.
Yes. Historical accounts from India describe allegations of honey badgers digging up buried human corpses. This links back to its powerful fossorial capabilities and its opportunistic scavenging nature. When the most terrifying element of a local beast, its digging, is combined with a taboo act, it instantly fuels dark folklore.
But perhaps the strangest cultural moment for the honey badger came during a very modern conflict, the British occupation of Iraq.
The Basra Badger scandal of 2007. This was bizarre. Rumors spread rapidly in Basra Governorate that man-eating badgers were running rampant, causing chaos and attacking locals.
And any badgers.
And the rumors specifically alleged that British troops had intentionally released them as some form of biological weapon to spread fear and unrest.
A biological weapon of pure spite, built on the animal's legendary ferocity. What was the official response?
The British Army categorically denied the allegations. A spokesperson clarified that badgers were, in fact, native to the region but were rare in Iraq, and crucially were usually only dangerous to humans if provoked.
But the story had already taken root.
The incident perfectly encapsulates how the honey badger's already fearsome reputation can quickly spiral into conspiracy theory and become a symbol of outside aggression during times of conflict and fear.
Fast forward a decade, and the honey badger's fame just explodes globally, entirely driven by digital media and its unshakable reputation for toughness.
The modern reputation is huge, featuring nicknames like the most fearless animal in the world and, pound for pound, the most powerful creature in Africa.
And this perception of invincibility isn't just about its skin.
No, it's driven by its observed defensive ability, the way it consistently repels much larger predators, combined with the sheer volume and intimidation of its threat display.
That threat display is a performance, isn't it?
It is a performance honed by evolution. It includes loud rattling noises, the first standing up, which is called piloerection, to make it appear larger, and a straight upward-facing tail as it charges. This aggressive display is highly effective at forcing a confrontation to end quickly, usually in the badger's favor, minimizing the risk of a protracted fight.
But the reputation isn't just brute strength. It's also intelligence, a point often underestimated.
That intelligence is critical to its survival. The honey badger is considered a highly intelligent creature. The BBC documentary Honey Badgers, Masters of Mayhem, highlighted this beautifully.
What did they show?
It showed captive individuals demonstrating impressive problem-solving skills, including potentially working together as a cohesive unit to achieve goals, and critically, using tools like rocks or sticks to unlock complex enclosure latches and escape.
Using tools.
They are resourceful strategists, not just mindless fighters.
It seems like that reputation for relentless, uncontrollable toughness has led to its adoption as a symbol in the contemporary world in a very unexpected place, cryptocurrency.
Yes, the honey badger has been widely adopted as a symbol for the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. This is a powerful, modern metaphor.
Why Bitcoin?
Advocates often compare the perceived uncontrollability, persistence, and decentralized nature of the cryptocurrency. Its ability to exist and persist regardless of opposition from centralized governments or banking systems, to the animal's renowned toughness and ability to thrive regardless of circumstances. It is the ultimate symbol of resilient, unyielding force.
Okay, that was a truly incredible deep dive into the Mellivora capensis. We looked past the internet fame to find a creature defined by its biological armor, that thick, loose skin, and its vast, adaptable distribution that spans 3 continents.
We detailed its status as an unspecialized eating machine that survives on sheer will and physical resilience, backed by years of intensive training from its mother.
And we've seen that the constant high-stakes conflict with humans, from beekeepers suffering massive economic losses to public health officials managing its role as a rabies reservoir, is the critical dynamic defining its existence today.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for the animal we call the honey badger?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the honey badger is a master adapter and a study in maximizing biological leverage. Its ferocity isn't aggression for aggression's sake.
It's a tool.
It is a highly effective, complex suite of survival mechanisms, physical, chemical, and behavioral, including its intelligence, that have been honed by evolution to ensure its persistence across incredibly diverse, often hostile environments. It fights because fighting, historically, has worked.
That's the perfect synthesis. Now, for the provocative thought we leave with you, the listener.
Though the honey badger is classified as least concern globally, its future hinges entirely on its success in managing direct conflict with humanity. Its very adaptations, its incredible toughness, its ability to breach structures, its status as a rabies reservoir, ironically make it a perpetual target for technologically advanced eradication programs.
So its greatest strengths are also its greatest liabilities.
Exactly. So the question is the honey badger's legendary invincibility enough to survive the modern era of constant human encroachment and the targeted, focused countermeasures designed specifically to defeat its toughness? That is the ultimate test of its evolutionary legacy.
A question only time will answer. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the world of the incomparable honey badger.